Hey there, it's Christian from 7 Gaming Network, and Star Wars Destiny is finally out. It has hit the shelves. There's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of excitement about it. Completely sold out where I am, and I think that if that buzz and excitement hasn't reached your area yet, then it really will do. I think this game is going to be one that's around for a little while, to say the least. Now, what I am hearing though is lots of people making various objections about why they don't want to get into the game, reasons not to play it. And after talking with a few people and actually maybe giving them a bit more information about it, quite a few of those people have then either gone away and tried it or thought, okay, that's not what I expected, that's not how I thought the game was, and so that's helpful information. So I thought I'd make a video in a sense with answers to these potential objections that you might have about Star Wars Destiny, just so you can make a good decision about whether you want to play it, an informed decision I should say, about whether you want to play it or not. So firstly, well, the first big question of course, or objection is, well, I don't know if it's any good. If you want to check out my other video that talks about my opinion on the game in terms of its mechanics and its components and all that side of thing, that will give you a deeper insight as to why I think the game is a really very excellent game. So check that out, I'll put a link up for that. But the main objection that I've been hearing from almost everybody is this is a collectible game. I don't want to get into a CCG because they're just too expensive. Now, there's a couple of things I'm going to say in answer to that. So firstly, playing CCGs casually is not particularly expensive. It's not expensive to buy a couple of starter sets in Magic and a couple of boosters, and you'll have good fun with that, you'll enjoy yourself. When it comes to Destiny, I don't think it's any different. The starter sets are somewhere between, you know, 10 to 15 pounds if you're buying it in the UK. It's probably about the same in dollars in the States, or wherever you are. So the starters aren't expensive to get hold of, and if you're the kind of player that's happy just buying starters and a couple of boosters, you'll have good fun with that, you'll have a good experience with that. And if you're happy to play casually and just buy a few packs when the new sets come out, great, you'll enjoy it. Destiny is a very, very good casual game and you'll have fun playing it that way. Playing CCGs competitively, well, that is a bit more expensive, or at least playing with competitive decks, even if you might not necessarily do tournaments. We know that's traditionally very expensive. A couple of things that I think might make Destiny a little bit different. Firstly, it's a 30 card deck in Destiny. That makes a big difference. If we were to compare it with the big one, Magic, which of course is a 60 card deck, then you're actually looking to get half the number of cards available for your competitive deck. So that makes a big difference when you actually need half the amount of cards. Secondly, in terms of the amount of cards that you're able to have, you're only allowed 2 ofs in Destiny, whereas of course in Magic it would be 4 ofs. So if you were trying to get hold of a very expensive rare, well then most of the time in Magic you're going to need a full play set of 4, and that makes it really expensive. In Destiny, because you can only have 2 of any one card, again it's pretty much halving it, more or less, depending on various prices and so on. So those are fundamentally important things to know if you are thinking of getting into Destiny or wanting to try it but getting scared off by having a competitive deck being too difficult to get hold, too expensive to put together. It's half the number of cards and it's half the actual allowed amount that you would normally compare with in terms of Magic. Now the other big issue that I've heard or objection to Destiny is that I don't want to play another CCG where you need a deck that's stuffed with all the legendaries for it to be competitive. Now this is an area where I think Fantasy Flight have been very clever. What they've done, remember, although this game's only just hit, it's been getting played to death on Tabletop Simulator for months now. So I mean, there really is a bit of a meta has already sort of built up around it. People have played a lot with these cards and know what it's like. So if you're thinking, how can we know all of this so early on, that's where a lot of it has come from. FFG have really evenly distributed the power level, I think, through the cards. They've been very clever in that the legendaries, none of them are ridiculously overpowered, certainly from testing that's been done over these last few months and where things currently are. And the good thing is none of them are rubbish. They're all good cards, each of the legendaries. But what's brilliant is that you will need plenty of powerful commons and uncommons that are in the game in your decks. They have built it in such a way that the commons, and some of them will have much more game-changing effects than you being able to play a particular rare die out at any time, or legendary die out at a certain time. And that's not to say the age-old argument of, well, every card has its moment. Of course, it's really not like that. Some of the effects that we see on commons and uncommons are really, really powerful effects that you're going to need in your deck, competitively speaking. So it's a bit of a misnomer to say, oh, I don't want to get into this game because then I'm going to have to build a deck stuffed with legendaries, which makes it really expensive. That simply isn't the case. In fact, what we're seeing with a number of the sort of decks that are starting to emerge as good decks, certainly two I can think of, don't have any legendaries in at all, and they're really strong decks. You know, they're challenging those that have 3 or 4 in, or maybe even more. So I would strongly encourage you, don't be put off by these typical thoughts of CCGs being really expensive to get into, really difficult to get hold of those cards that you need to make a competitive deck. You have to either spend lots and lots of money on trading and buying the cards individually, or on buying the packs and hoping you luck out. It really isn't like that. You can build super competitive decks with no legendaries in the deck. And I think that's one of the things that I really, really like about what they've done here at FFG. Even down to the fact that the character dice that you bring to play, with, most games you're only going to have 2, 3, or maybe 4 characters on your side, on your team, and quite a lot of these unique characters you can either play with 1 or 2 dice. So you don't even need 2 ofs on some of the bigger characters that you're going to bring to the game, because they're quite a lot of points. You actually only want to play with the 1 die version, which is a little bit cheaper to field. So even some of the really big, expensive, powerful cards, you're just not going to need 2 ofs in your deck anyway. So there are 2 cards that seem to be the ones people are really going after. Again, I genuinely would say it's not because they are the most powerful. It's just not the way they've distributed the power. But they're good, strong, famous characters in the canon, and that's Vader and that's Han Solo. They're cards that people are quite excited to get hold of, but Vader's very, very expensive. Even to run his 1 die version is very expensive, so you're probably going to want 1 card of him. So anyway, there's just a few quick fire reasons on why it is that you probably don't need to spend as much money as you might think to get into Star Wars Destiny, play it competitively, and have loads and loads of fun. Okay, great game, and really not as expensive as you perhaps at first might think. So don't be scared off just because it's a CCG. Get a starter, get a handful of boosters, and have some fun. Enjoy it.